We've done already.
Yes.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'll call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock on May 20th, 2024 at the town hall. I need a motion to stop the agenda, but we're gonna have to amend it to the emergency meeting. And there's a deed for the cemetery that has to be signed. So if there are any other things, let me know, but somebody make a motion to adopt the agenda as fixed, added to.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? We'll do the minutes of the regular meeting on May 6th, 2024. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to those minutes as presented?
I don't have anything. I'm fine.
If not, somebody make a motion to accept them.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, then we have the emergency meeting minutes on Friday. Any additions or corrections to those? One line, but just in case.
No.
Okay. Somebody make a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Second. All right, no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Now, workers' compensation policy, who's gonna handle that one?
I can give an introduction to that. So every spring, we're notified by our class of insurance to submit a bunch of documents for them to do an audit. And this year, we were notified that about 7 or 8 of our contractors did not have workers' compensation. Therefore, the town had to pay for the exposure charge. So that charge is based on the dollar amount that the contractor is paid. So there's a percentage per $100. So we ended up having to pay just over 6,000.
So we had to pay 7,000, the total amount of work that was found was $62,544. And we had to pay $7,000 worth of that as workers' comp.
So between Kim and I, we tried to get to the bottom of that as to why this is just all of a sudden come up. Essentially, it's written in the state statute that any work done for a municipality they have to carry workers' compensation, or the municipality has to cover their exposure. And so I talked with the representative, and she said it's essentially to protect the municipality for any added liability. So ultimately, a decision has to be made as to what we do going forward, because there are contractors that have done work in the past that do not carry workers' compensation. So, did I miss anything?
No, that a lot of our self-employed sole proprietorships tend not have to carry workers' comp for anybody else that they work with, which is all well and good, except municipalities are an exception, and they don't want to be sued. So we have to require it. And if we were to pick up the expense, like possibility, we're opening up the town for higher rate increases if there should happen to be an accident. And if we did decide to say we would cover the workers' comp, even if they paid their portion, we would go up a level for probably 4 to 5 years, a higher level that we have to pay because we had an incident if one were to happen and we were to go that route. It's hard, it cuts out a lot of small businesses that we do with locally, but it's for our own protection. So I think Morgan's looking at, do we want to make a policy that we do not accept anybody that does not have workers' comp? Or do you want to make an exception? The only way around it is have them kind of bid process if they were to bid higher to cover their own cost of workers' comp that would cost us and kind of a reimbursement. We can do that. Somehow we need to make some kind of a policy moving forward.
And so that everybody understands that this is we've always done this. This is every flood when we hire truckers or whatever, we do not have it. I mean, this is something that's been gone for, what, 20 years or whatever? And this is something that we found out this year. And the problem is, when you have a flood and you need people to work, and somebody has a truck or whatever, and they don't have workers' comp, then you don't have people to fix the flood. So it eliminates some of your workforce to get the flood damage quickly repaired, so.
If you were to make any exceptions, it was really hard at budgeting time to budget what we would have to pay, like this year, we had to pay 7,000 that we did not budget for, we did not expect this. So moving forward, if we were to have a disaster, or if we were just planning to hire somebody in the middle of the year because we needed something repaired, we didn't budget to cover their workers' comp. So that would be out of pocket, and there is a chart for every class code of workers' comp. And in the, just for instance, in the highway, public works, for every $100 is a $7.59 charge. You know, it goes all the way down to, you know, somebody from Park and Recs. $3.85. Park and Recreation, if you really pick that up. So there's a dollar amount attached to each type of job they have. And the higher rent, the worse it is.
Even administrative work, even like office work, it's significantly less, but there's still a charge.
So I guess we're gonna have to come up with a solution.
I'm not sure if you get a short-term workman's comp policy for like 2 weeks, you know, like the sole proprietor, he could do that, or the town can get it done.
The problem is not doing normal work, with mow lawns or things like that. The problem is when you have a flood. That's when it really hurts, because you lose the pool that you go from, if people don't have workers' comp. Unless you charge them for it, and you know, you just
So the
sort of
local
take it out.
contractor who, for instance, cuts the grass in the park, he has to carry workman's comp.
Yes. Yes,
And if he doesn't, then
that's right.
so we put all people out of work. Good job. I mean,
Well, I mean,
Not our fault.
this is, we've never had this problem. It's come up in all the years that I've been on board, and this never happened. So this is something new that caught us today. So like everything else, everything is harder harder to work.
But if you make the exception that during a disaster or flood, you're still opening up the time for liability.
Right.
For high rates. Moving forward.
Also in a flood, we don't know their end amount that they charge the town, so it's not like initially they can say, well, I'm gonna
That's right.
be out $700, for instance. Like, it's all based on what we end up paying at the end.
So I think that, you know, the board, we have to decide, think about how we want to change the policy. Because it's gonna happen again. I mean, you're gonna have a flood, we're gonna be some natural disaster, but you're gonna have to have people. And if you don't have enough people to do it, then that becomes a problem.
Have you checked with other towns what they're doing to address this? With that solution?
I haven't, I just talked to our passive representative, and it's tricky because she's made it pretty crystal clear that we don't have much of a choice. It's all through our insurance company. So, I mean, I can reach out, but
She didn't give you any samples?
That might be a
well,
good
she
idea.
didn't really open the door for options. I mean, she said either we hire somebody with workers' comp, or there's a fee that we're gonna have to charge for.
Well, maybe it's a good idea that maybe talk to Chester or one of the local towns and see how they handle it. The small towns anyway.
Do they have, like Steve mentioned, a short term, like we do hiring contractors to do small jobs not related to the flood?
Right. And it would apply to them as well.
It just makes it harder. Yeah, now,
It's really two issues. I can see the answer to one where you. If you're gonna pay your contractors a set fee for dump trucks. You pay everybody that fee and you make sure that you tell the people that don't have it. You're gonna deduct that amount out of their pay. So I could see that might be a way around that. But the really bigger issue, I think, is how long, if you get an accident here and it bumps your rate up, how long does that rate stay up before it drops back again?
5 years.
5 years, so depending on what it is,
Oh, no.
that's the issue you really gotta think
Oh,
about.
no, we can't, we can't. I mean, we have to change the policy. I mean, there's no question about it. The question is, how do you want to change it? And your suggestion is one of the things that was talked about.
Right,
Kim?
But also, if you think about making an exception, you know, that they pay up front, what fairness is that to someone who is paying a year's worth of insurance coverage so that they are legit, but the town's picking up somebody who doesn't want to pay for a year's worth? Because also proprietors, when you just go on the outside workforce, you don't have to have it because you're sole owner. It's only for the municipality. So they're carrying it solely for the municipality, but then you're gonna waive it for someone else. Someone's being honest and paying for it for a year, but then you might waive it for somebody else.
No, yeah, you're right. And so, I mean, I think we have to think about this,
Yeah,
and see what
definitely.
options we have.
Yeah, and especially when we've got some contracts and bids and things coming up that
Yeah.
we need repairs on.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, we're not sure how to move forward, whether, like, even if we put anything out to bid going forward, if there needs to be a clause in there, there has to be a clause in there about workers' comp. So in the meantime, we're kind of at a standstill.
But we have no choice. We have to protect the town. You can't put any liability on the town. I mean, if something happens and we have to pay a high rate for 5 years, that's not fair to the village, or the town, or the residents.
Was this $7,000, did that pertain to just 1 year, or was it retroactive for further back?
It was just one.
Just
calendar
1 year,
Yeah, just the flood basically.
which was a flood year, of course, but
Yes, of
it's going to
course.
be another flood year.
Right.
usually.
Mhm.
All right, so we'll put that on the agenda. I mean, board will discuss that and we'll get some ideas. Kobe, do you have a report that you'd like to give before we do the other stuff?
Not really, we, pretty much focusing on the culvert for tomorrow, we're gonna start it tomorrow. Other than that, I have nothing really planned until that's done with. We might try to get on the stagecoach and that's done, to start cutting trees to help the power company over there. Get that done, so that we don't have to cut trees after the lines are all put in. Other than that, I think that's what we're gonna be doing this week.
I see you graded 121 today.
Parts of it, 2 parts of it. Hopefully by the end of the week we get the rest of it, but I don't know, depending on how this project goes and the project on stage goes. We have to get the trees cut and the stumps pulled before they get the wire in, so. Kind of a time crunch right now, to get that done too.
Anybody have any questions for Kobe? The library is on there. There's John, you can describe it better than I can, but there's a leak or water running on their property. I'm assuming it is, or near their property.
Years ago, there used to be a ditch that ran behind the library. From, it's up towards the store, and it went all the way down to Kittick Hill. And the foundation didn't like the looks of whatever at that time, and they wanted to fill it in, so they put a culvert in part of it and filled it in. And I think it was probably 15, 20 years ago, there was a problem with it leaking. And I do not remember what they did to fix it, but the foundation did something there. And now it's leaking again, and it's at the lower end, right near the Kitty Hill road. The culvert is plugged up. And it's backing up and it's creating water on the library land. And also, I think, on the foundation for the tennis court.
So Michelle asked if the town could repair it. And that's not a municipal building. And then she asked us to research it through VLCT, which we did. And Morgan, you can explain what VLCT said?
Yeah, the attorney said essentially it's on private property. And the town could repair it, but they would need to have a very clear and concise agreement about specifically the work that's being done and then who's responsible for it in the future. But ultimately, he said that the town is not obligated to repair that because it's on private.
Right. And we just don't have the time anyway. I mean, we have roads to grade, we have the pitches to line and trees to cut, and so there's nothing that, pretty soon, so go ahead, Ken.
Also, when Russell came in, he ran all lines, the foundation did through the foundation section, and the foundation section is all clear. The blockage is definitely at the private property of the library, not at the foundation.
It's
Also, the library worked for 15 years, and I've been discussed those stuff. That one a little bit, but I would say my understanding as a former library board trustee is that that's not a private property, and it is in fact listed as an asset of the town.
No,
It was, Cynthia had listed as an asset.
They're private property, they own it, their own building, that's.
They own the building, and they have authority over it, but it belongs to the town.
don't believe
The
so.
library board has authority over the property, but it belongs to the town.
The deed isn't the back of the deed is to the library trustees.
But it belongs to the town. It doesn't belong to the selectmen, but the library belongs to the town to pay for this. Anything else?
No, because we don't carry the money or anything, there's the library, it's its own entity, just like the fire station.
No, it's not at all.
Hi there, could I jump in here for a moment as the library director and just piggyback on what Patrick was saying? So, Joe, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes,
Okay, great. So Joe, I had been communicating with Morgan because my question was based on the fact that we are a municipal library connected to the town. You know that, you handle payroll and then we reimburse you for it, you invoice it. And we actually are covered by the same insurance rider that you are covered for. We pay VLTC or Vermont League of Cities and Towns for insurance. So somebody else talking, I can't really hear. So
Nope.
we're covered under the same insurance that you're covered under, and we're a municipal library. The library trustees, of course, are charged with managing the library finances in the library building, but it is a municipal library. So in most cases, if we have some advance notice, we're able to handle through fundraising or through tax support or through capital campaigns, repairs to the building. But this was a very sudden and potentially quite expensive repair, which actually is connected to a pipe that runs through the entire village. So I approached Morgan because it seemed like it was not just a library concern. It seems like it's a town-wide concern when you have a pipe that runs through so many properties and is impacting sometimes the ball field, sometimes the Wyndham Foundation property. And of course, if things are cleared and blown out up above, they're going to run down and clog the pipe that's on the library property. So rather than just taking on a very sudden $20,000 to $30,000 repair, who knows what it would have been, it seemed to behoove us as a municipal library. And I think you well remember that during COVID, when we were having a potential concert on the library lawn, the select board was very quick to give input about what could or could not happen on the library lawn because it's municipal property. So that was, my question was intended along the lines of that it's a municipal building, it's municipal property, and of course, the library trustees are responsible for fiscally managing. But when you have a very big expense and it's that comes up very suddenly, and it's possible that the town road crew could possibly handle it in a more fiscally responsible way than an outside contractor, it seemed responsible of me to come to you all and ask, plus also to open up the conversation wider in town, because this is a town-wide issue when we have problems with these pipes, not just a separate library issue or a separate Wyndham Foundation. It's really good to have a conversation about what's going on and for everybody to know if there's a clog in one area, there's going to be a clog in another area, right? Because they all run together. So that, but the good news is, it looks like what the Wyndham Foundation did last week has completely cleared it up. There's no more standing water. It's dry as a bone. I think the issue is done for the summer, but we are all going to have to keep an eye on it and what's happening with these pipes now that there's more flooding and the groundwater situation is changing in town. So I'm here just to hear more information, but not necessarily to hear this is just a library problem and you need to solve it, because that seems to me to be very short-sighted. I would like to work together here as a community.
Colby, you had something?
I went and looked at it the other day, and I crawled down into the drain to look at it, and where it comes into our catch basin, there's no issue with it, and so the issue is gonna be like 60 to 70 feet off of the town right away. Our catch basin and all our pipes down to there are clean, so, I mean, it's not in any way gonna affect us with the road at least, so.
So, Michelle, the problem has gone away? Michelle?
Sorry, I'm muted. I was muted again. Right now, I think the problem is completely resolved, because I believe what the Wyndham Foundation, as you know, came last week and put a great big, basically, I guess, snake down through and tried to unclog it. And I think they thought at first it didn't work, but it might have taken a while for all that water to drain. It's completely dry. I went out yesterday and I went out today. There's not a bit of wetness, but again, with our changing weather systems and the amount of flooding that we seem to be having that's cyclical now, it's really possible something will get clogged again. So it'd be really good to have a town-wide conversation about it. And, not just like, this is your part of the pipe. This is, it should be nice to have all the stakeholders be able to have some sort of a plan or communication about what's going on. So it doesn't need to be done immediately in my mind at all. I think right now the library is good to go. It's very dry.
Okay, so it's not an issue now, so, Patrick?
Right.
Well, I think it's wonderful that it's resolved, and I agree with Michelle that, the broad long-term solution is to have about drainage in town. However, back to the topic of private versus municipal property, I want to repeat them, and Morgan, I hope you will investigate this and talk to VLCT some more. I hope that you get some library board trustees in here as soon as possible. That building is a public library. The trustees are in fact elected officials, just like you're an elected official. That building and that property is owned by the town, not the trustees in their name, but it's owned by the town. All that said, the library may very well have the fund and the responsibility to take care of its own problem. So I'm not saying that the town, that the select board needs to solve this problem with money.
No.
So really you need to understand, I need to understand it as I understand, that is not a private property, not all like private, which is in fact a private organization. The board and the trustees of the library, the board of the library is elected by the people of the town. They own that library.
But what we should do is do a little research and see who actually owns it and what the responsibilities are. But for right now, the problem's gone, so let's just move on.
With you on that.
All right. Any other thing for the roads or the Colby before we move on? No, okay. Kim, you're on, engagement letter.
Yep, I think Morgan has that from Sullivan Powers.
We approved that.
Our interested intent was last time, this is the actual engagement letter with the amount that they're asking. That's only charged starting in June. And it just is a form of a contract that they just.
But we approved this already, I
You
think.
approved us to, like,
Send a letter.
send a letter to them holding the spot. Now, this is the contract.
So do we need a motion for this now?
Yeah, this is the
Okay.
contract to accept it and sign.
All right, so somebody make a motion to, I guess, accept the contract dated May 8th, 2024, to do the audit for the town of Grafton.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Can't be decided. All right, Kim, do you have anything else?
Well, we collected our last quarter of, tax payments. So it is now, anybody who has not paid their May 15th and 16th payment is now considered delinquent, and, that's about it, yeah, that's it.
All right. Media reports. We have, 4 bids to open. So we want to get to it.
The WW excavation. Um. 38,745. It's the total price.
Do they have insurance?
Yep.
What job is this?
This is for.
This is the village park grant. The grant for the village park to do the paths and, the lead, lead to whatever you want to call it.
This is just for the trail, going from the parking lot to the learning center and connecting to fire department. The learning center itself has been built and is being built by the village park volunteers.
Ivor Stevens, 26,000,
Even,
even, yes.
yes, insurance.
Yeah.
Does that raise the issue of workman's comp?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we won't accept the bid tonight anyway. Normally, we wait one meeting and we'll check to make sure that there is competent with workman's comp, so that it conforms to town's regulations.
Taylor excavation, 35,781. Summit contracting. See here. 43,700.
So I guess the committee should take the bids. Take a look at it. And make sure that the bid is correct, and then I guess we'll approve it, depending on your recommendation.
I have a question for the select board. The total amount of the grant was just under 30,000, correct?
Correct.
I mean, essentially, you could say it was 30,000. We built the lean-to, so originally the plan was, the grant proposal was for both. So by us building and lean-to, buying the materials, that money obviously can go, use all that money for the trail. We've also had some donations that have been given to the project. When we described to the, or at least when I explained to the contractors, I told them, you know, the 30,000 originally was for, but it's been 3 years, so we've done the work, and so essentially there's 30,000 there. When you walked through with Summit, did you explain that as well? Okay, so they all heard that. The question I have for you folks is, do you want to stick to the 30,000? If that's the case, there's only one person, one bid that's within that number. Do you want to put the donations to it and raise it up? You have, and our original thought was that we would present the opportunity for work to local contractors. The Summit contractor, which is the highest bid, but they are not just general contractors. Trail work is their specialty. That's what they do. If you looked at their work, they've done a lot of work on the northern rail trail in northern Vermont. They have some equipment the other contractors didn't have, but the other contractors might rent. And one of the pieces of equipment is a 3-yard off-road piece of equipment that is designed to be an off-road dump truck. The others didn't have it. Do you want to try and add money and go with somebody that trail work is their expertise? Or would you like to stick with the grant and just look at doing the work with local contractor and staying under that 30,000? So,
Well, the town doesn't have any money. I mean, we can't add any money to this thing. I mean, we're over budget as it is. So I don't know whether, if you wanna have Summit, you should think it's better, and you have the money, I guess that's okay, but it can't come from the town.
we don't have, even with the largest donation we have, unless there's some more that I don't know about, we would not have enough. And so I'm just asking you, and if that's.
Well, that's just my opinion.
If that's the answer, that's simple.
No, that's just my opinion. We have three other tippers, they can speak.
Well, I think the committee ought to look over those bids and see what they say before you decide anything.
Well, if we're gonna stick to the 30,000, there's no sense looking at the other bids because they exceed the 30,000.
Well, maybe the 26 doesn't have in there what you want.
Yeah.
So that's why I say you ought to look at them first before you make a decision.
Okay.
Well,
One of the things we have talked about was the drainage issue at the very front of the park that affects certainly the Keegans and so on and so forth, and I believe you were there at the time. So I don't know if these bids cover something that could be done down there, but that's really not part of our park trail. That would be a town responsibility, I would think, because of that drainage issue that's there. So I've been looking at the bids and seeing if that component is in there, and if that can be teased out, if, to me, it would come back to be something that the town would need to.
Well, we have I mean, obviously, I didn't look at the bids, but we have a drainage issue. And, we thought that the town fixed it last time. But apparently it still is there. So we're gonna have to figure out a way, if it's the town, we'll take care of that. But what the concern is, with the new construction, we don't wanna make it worse. We wanna make sure that we're not adding to the problem, because it's going on Keenan's property, and it's going behind the brick meeting house. And, it can't happen.
And that had been explained,
Right.
and again, when we look at the bids, if we see that that is a component of these bids, then again, I think that's a town response.
Kobe?
The only thing I really asked them to do is to treat it like logging access or any access and put stone in the bottom. So that when the water did get down to the bottom of the road, that it would decipher itself into the ditch and not go out of the road. I mean, as long as you don't direct more water to the house, there should be no issue. So, I mean, there's not really anything, right now, the problem is to a minimum, it's not really a big deal, so. As long as there's not more water put to it, and they put the stone in the bottom of the road like I asked, that's all, I mean, they're gonna have to get an access permit anyway to do the job. And that's gonna be, when they come to the access permit, I can ask them to do that anyway, so. I mean, and it really needs to be done so that they're not dragging silt into the road.
But there still is an issue with the Keenans.
There's still an issue, it's a little bit better than it was.
But yeah, well, that's not, we have to fix it.
We can fix the issue, but all I asked, I didn't ask them to fix the issue, I asked them to not direct more water to the issue,
Right.
is all I asked. The ditch I put in there, because all the water bars were facing the wrong way, it helped, but. I mean, there's still more water in there that we can divert, obviously, like we've talked about with the library one, we don't really have time right this second to do it.
Right.
And when it dries out, I would love to go there and do it, but right now, it's not really, I mean, is it still coming in just as bad as it was? Or is it better?
It's a significant somehow.
Yeah, I'd like to put a drainage ditch in there, but a, underground drainage all the way down the road up in there to stop it, but. I didn't ask them to do that out of their pocket. It'll come out of towns eventually when we do it, but. When we have time to do it this year.
Well, we have to fix it.
Yes, no, we will, but just not to direct more water to it is all I asked.
But the concerns that John and I had was that with the new work that they're doing, that it's not gonna make sure in the bids, and who's ever doing the work, it's not gonna add to the problem that we already have.
From what we discussed when we went there now, everything that they discussed, nothing really seems like it's gonna send anything to it, so. What they're doing, I don't think it's gonna affect it any. As long as, like. If there was an issue where it got to somewhere and it did end up doing it, all I asked was to fix it, so it didn't. But everything that they want to get done doesn't seem like it's gonna cause more of an issue.
Good.
May I ask a question to Margot and, did all four bidders be on site to see what had to be done on all these? And I can understand where you're coming from in terms of the equipment needed to do the trails, so you're doing less damage to the trails or that whole area, if you don't have the right equipment.
Well, correct. But that was a discussion that took place, and just so everybody knows. The local contractor all went and looked at it in the morning at our 8 o'clock walkthrough. The summit couldn't make it down, and they found out about it on the municipal website, I guess you call it. When Morgan posted the opportunity. So that's how they found out about it, but they couldn't make it down in the morning, but we had written into that a provision. That if somebody couldn't make it there at 8 o'clock, that we would make time for them sometime, but it had to be on that day. So They came later in the day, we were working on the building and Margot took them and walked through the same thing that we did in the morning. So everybody saw it that day and heard essentially the same story. But, you know, a contractor during the conversation might say, I don't have that piece of equipment. I'm hoping in since then, that contractor went and found where they could rent one, which is a possibility. And then they would have the use of it for the project.
Well, I think that's why you have to look at the bids and then meet with the contractor, if that's low bidder, and see it. And you're happy with him. If you're not happy with him, whether he does it for nothing, maybe you shouldn't use it. Maybe you gotta rebid it again. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Could there be some negotiations with some on that bid?
What, a bid's a bid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bid's a bid.
I think once you open the bid,
So it's, you can't,
and then, and they know what other people bid, that,
no,
I don't think can do that.
So my suggestion is take the bids. Let the committee take a look at it, meet with the contractors, and if you're not happy, then maybe you have to rebid it again, or do something else, I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna dish up.
Oh, okay. Are you been calling me?
No.
Oh, good, okay.
Are you,
That was an accident.
oh, okay. Anything else on the part? Not? Cemetery, I did go to Springfield Fence last week, the person was not there. That had to tell me about it, and I will be there this week and see if they're willing to do it, if not, we'll have to go look for another contractor to repair the fence. Personnel, you have anything?
No.
Okay, and wastewater. Morgan, Morgan, you wanna explain to what we're doing with the wastewater?
Yeah, since the last meeting, I have drafted a letter back to the commissioner. And I know Kathy and Suzanne have reviewed that, so I'll make some corrections, and have another draft to send out to the committee. And then, as far as I'm aware, it would be sent off to the commissioner, essentially asking for an extension to carry on with the project.
Yeah, for 9 days.
So we'll see what happens. Special town meeting,
July flood update.
Hmm?
July flood update.
oh, sorry, yeah, but Bill, go ahead. July flood update,
I'd like Morgan to address what happened today, what we got from BEM today, and then I'll follow up.
So today we got a survey that we had to fill out with a bunch of financial questions. We had to send a certificate of insurance, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a step, for, that they need to start issuing reimbursement.
Right, and, in my experience with, Ludlow, keep saying it, Londonderry, about a week after they asked for the financial, and the financials were presented to BEM. BEM gets the money from FEMA and then disperses. So about a week after that happened in Londonderry, the money started to flow. So I would expect that the town will start getting the FEMA money within a week or 10 days. And it would be starting with the first projects that have been all of this. Where we stand with all the projects except for administration is that they now have all been sent to the center that reviews them all after the local staff of FEMA gives their approval. It goes to what they call CRC. I don't know what this measure stands for, but it's the center that reviews everything. If they have any questions or any clarifications, it comes back to us. If there aren't any, they will then obligate it, and obligate it means that they will then pay it. That obligation paperwork comes back to the town to sign, to send, it goes to the state, and then the state then pays it. But before they can pay it, they need all this financial information which they got to. So they look, things have been. For the last 2 months, things have been a lot better than they were for the first 8 months. With FEMA, so things have moved.
We received some money already, right, that Morgan?
We received money for the work that was on the state highways.
State highways.
So 121.
Yeah, the Fed aid highway money, someone that has come in, we haven't done anything for FEMA. This is an indication that the DEM has obligated projects and is ready to disperse them. That's what this. The FEMA, for the FEMA part, not for the Fed aid highways. That should come through in our experience in the past is once those projects start being paid, they come pretty quickly. And there's about 300,000.
And we have received 25,000 and then 38,000 for 2 separate projects. And I think there's 5 more to go for state, and then it's all FEMA going forward.
Anybody have any questions?
Joe, just wondered, I have a question for Kim. Kim, given this situation, have we had to borrow money in this of a lot?
Yes.
Oh, good for you.
But if it's probably until July 13th to make the decision, because after that, the line of credit that I secured will mature. So hopefully things move like rather quickly, so I can do it before the 13th of July.
We're doing our best here to get all the stuff into the proper agencies to get our money back. Hopefully, it'll come. Anybody else, any questions? If not, the special town meeting, warning,
So I have the warning here. Hopefully you all can have been able to review it. I'll just read the article. It says, shall the voters of the town of Grafton vote to fill the select board seat vacated by said project until the termination of his elected term at town meeting 2026. And then, so voters will vote by Australian ballot here at the town hall on Tuesday, June 25th. And the polls will be open from 9 AM to 7 PM.
Do we have a motion on this?
Yes, please.
do we have any other business?
Can we have a motion?
Oh, yeah. A motion to approve the special town meeting to fill the vacancy.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay. 1%. Yeah,
2 questions. Can you tell us what candidates are going to be in the ballot?
one candidate,
One candidate.
Mrs. Keegan.
Okay, and the deadline is passed.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're having a special election, costing the town a lot of money, everybody's wasting time, which could have been done by the select board many weeks ago, and we would have had a member on the board already. Just, I have to put that on the record.
So I'd like to put on the record that it is the option of the town to
I
submit
understand that.
a petition and, so. That would give over the time.
Not sure there's anything you can do about it, but I would just like to share. Maybe people should keep an eye out. There's somebody that seems to get their jollies about going up to the parking lot and doing donuts and ripping it up. It's not always the same vehicle. There's been a vehicle that looks to be like a Jeep with really aggressive tires on it. And then, the most recent one looks more like a ATV or a UTV. Maybe they have more than one vehicle person, but, I know, talking to the foundation, they've had similar problems, but,
Is this at the village park?
the one I'm talking about is in the parking lot at the Village Park. And just for what it's worth, And I know you're not gonna have it be there.
Well, it might be the same people who are doing the donuts on the roads,
Could
I'm
be,
sure.
could be, but just so you know. Yeah.
I just have a question, what are the expenses for holding an election? I'm unaware.
You have to print ballots, you have the town clerk has to work, she has to hire people, you can explain it.
Yeah, I basically are gonna have two ballot clerks, I think they charge $50 an hour. And they're only here for probably 5 to 7 hours. My time is my normal day anyways, I'm salaried, and I do print the election ballots myself from our printer that we pay, that we lease. So the expense is minimal, but it is an expense. It's a small, yeah, maybe 150 pounds. I can tell you once I figure out the hours for the ballot clerks. So it's the mission of the town, so we have to respect them.
We have that cemetery deed to sign as well.
Yeah. Who has the deed?
So this is a deed, selling a plot to Elizabeth. You know, neighbors.
The relationship is Henry Mosley's, he's. Justin Mosley's, and he's.
Is that all select board, everyone has to sign that?
Just a quote, just.
Oh, okay, you just sign the Steve.
Yeah, I think I have. Stop there, Steve.
Oh, yeah, I see it, thank you.
And then can we also get a motion just authorizing him to sign?
Okay, somebody make a motion.
So,
Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay. Do we have any other business? If not, do we have any public comment?
Just to let the board know that now that you've set the date for the election, I think June 20th is one of the selectboard meetings. I'll probably have a BCA meeting just prior to that formality, just so you guys can tell me, yes, it's okay to have the election here. And my election message.
Okay.
But it'll take like 3 minutes and I'll do it just before the 20th selectboard meeting. in June.
Okay. Well, then, I guess the next regular meeting, is Monday, June 3rd at 6 o'clock here. And we need a motion to go into executive session for a personnel matter.
so.
Well, thank you for coming.